Go ahead.
So, obviously, in the aftermath of Tua's comments you were asked about yesterday, uh, many former great players have said Tua was wrong in making this comment. With the benefit of reflection, do you wish Tua had not made those comments, and do you plan to talk to him about it?
Well, I mean, now that I've heard of them, you guys caught me before I heard them, so it was kind of like, um, I mean, it doesn't surprise me whatever reaction. I think, regardless of an intent and what was on to his mind after a loss as the franchise quarterback. That's not the forum to displace that. I think he knows that now. I do honestly believe it was not. There's no ill intention, but you're talking about I think kind of a misguided representation of player orchestrated film sessions, and the bottom line is no one's going to be happy, and always is looking for reasons for failure to succeed. So you're trying to look for reasons that you can attribute to losses, and there's heavy as the crown of being a franchise quarterback. I think what I do know is that he's directly communicated with a lot of guys, starting with last night, and that's what teammates do, and you live and you learn, and ultimately I look at it like everything else. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Accountability and our team's performance always lies squarely on my shoulders. So we know that as well. But the focus to beat the Cleveland Browns and fix this, fix what we need to get fixed in our game to go attack the next opponent. There's nowhere in that lies anything but focus on what we can do individually and how we can attack this work week, and everything else is not leading us into the direction of solution.
Mike, do you worry though that stuff like this shows a deeper problem, or is this an isolated thing that you think just Tua misspoke or just said it in the wrong form, as you said, or is there more to this potentially of any kind of misunderstanding within teammates, I guess?
Well, I think that's no, I'm not worried that when I say it's a misrepresentation of, I think I don't want to speak for Tua. He'll obviously get asked about it and be very candid, but ultimately no, I wasn't worried about the result of the game being determined by the extra outside of all things scheduled film sessions with players, and I think that's at the crux of the issue. Is inherently it's kind of assumed that you're attaching reasons for failure to that. So beyond, I've got a lot of things to worry about, and one of them is not those comments, and where our team is lying after that. There's we just had meetings about the game itself, the factual successes and failures that led to the ultimate result, and that's where people's focus needs to be, and I'm confident will be, as we are all very motivated to fix our problems and find a way to win. Got a beef going on here.
And so, Mike, these meetings, the problem that Tua mentioned is separate from the problem that was brought up at the end of last season of players being late to team meetings, right?
Completely separate, but I can understand the completely whatever he was talking about. If I would have been aware of anything, and it would be under my veil of responsibility if there was anything that had been discussed in the previous past that it was similar to. This was a different topic altogether.
the expense of making it a weekly question, what conversations have you had with owner Stephen Ross, and could you just relay any communication you've had with him?
Yeah, no. After the game, the main thing is that he's experiencing the loss like all of us, and I think it's the fourth loss this season that we've had. That in the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, we had a different outcome available to us. Let's just say so, and then the focus on what we need to do as a team to try to correct this. And each time that you have situations like that where you're disappointed, the best way to do something about it is focus on Cleveland. So that's what we talked about. That was the extent of it.
You mentioned like some of the issues in the second half is like execution and technique and fundamentals and things like that. How do you, I guess, coach a change when it's something as far as like we're executing it right in practice, but we're not getting it right in the game? And I guess how long can you afford to wait for the execution part to come?
No, well, I mean you're talking about I think again this past game there's 159 plays. There's we're getting more execution and getting people to execute certain things, but not enough to tip the scales in the given game. So then, the biggest challenge is people always look to, one play here, one play there at the end of the game to attach responsibility while you lose or win. And I don't see it that way. I see a game of accumulation of events and cause and effect. And the bottom line is you want guys to avoid collectively that desire to have the easy press. Okay, solution. That's all it was. Now I don't have to feel responsibility for my contribution. It's far from that. It's unilateral accountability. It's not placing blame on one play or one player or one particular unit for the results. It's understanding that we all are. There's a 3-yard gain that that Jalen Phillips makes, or there's a 3-yard gain on 1st and 10 in the first quarter that if Jalen Phillips doesn't strain and honor his pass responsibility on the fake run action, we don't make the defensive call on 2nd and 7. That doesn't have JB, that zone where JB and Sewell took a takeaway, and then the next play was a touchdown. Cause and effect, be executing for 4 quarters. The last 2 games, we've done our better job of executing in 3 out of the 4 quarters. And if you can't do it for 4 quarters, or at least when one phase fails to execute, the other one steps up. When you have snowballing failures of execution, you can find yourself in a hole. What I did believe to be true that I did also witness is a team that was down by 13 at 12 minutes left. That case in point, what happens when 3 phases execute? I think we had a 10-play touchdown drive, a series start at the 20 based upon a special teams play, and then a 4-play drive, force a punt, then a 13-play touchdown drive. Okay, that means when the team is executing, you have a chance to play with anybody, and I was proud of the guys for finding execution. But at some point you have to. We all collectively get over being proud of us, overcoming adversity, and we need to minimize some of the adversity that we control in our own hands. So it's you always wish it was easy as. It's far from that. It's getting your hands dirty across the board, and no one feeling that what they've done is good enough to win.
Mike, getting back to what Tua said when he said players are late and or missing meetings, and he later clarified just to say late to meetings. Why do you think that's happening? Is that a sign of disrespect for their teammates? And is that something where you might get involved and say these meetings are important, you need to be there on time?
Well, I think that first and foremost is to define if we're going to speak at it in a press conference forum. I think you have to define how often and who and how many people, if that's a misrepresentation on most units or most groups. These player film sessions that again are after meeting times and practice times, either Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, or Friday morning. That created activity from the players' locker room. I'm sure it didn't have unilateral issues at every step. So that's why you have to be very clear and understand the consequences of any statement you make. What are we talking about? A whole lot of stuff that has to do with not the reason or the reason for or against any sort of execution. This is something that where guys are trying to play 11 as one, and if they have issues with each other on their team bonding and film sessions, they can handle it in-house, and that's kind of the learning lesson that the team gets to witness, and that in situations where you're losing football games, it's about winning football games, and everything will come up when you're losing, and particularly the way that we have the last couple games.
Mike, are you going to open the window this week for any of the IR players, Sanders, Meyer, Daniels, Austin Jackson, etc.?
Not this week.
So it has been theorized by, I think, many analysts that because Tua didn't name names and he kind of painted everybody with the same brush, that it could have lingering effects, that some players could be thinking, hey, is he talking about me? That kind of thing. Do you think there's much to that? How do you think the reaction is going to be?
I think you leave all things open and without direct communication. I think it was important that he communicated with his teammates starting last night and continued today, and I think that is a concern without void of communication. But if you, there's a real easy way to clarify with teammates, and it's literally telling them. So I think that's was definitely on his plate last night and this morning, and moving on to focus on what we can do to win football games, not lose them.
How's the Tyrell Dotson progressing? And in the same breath, if you could assess KJ Britt's performance.
So I think T-Dot is doing well through the protocol. Well, hopefully in the next couple of days he'll get cleared. And then KJ Britt, I thought played a phenomenal game. We went into the game with various scenarios of how we were gonna play. The game was gonna play out by personnel, and with his combination with JB and what he was able to make some plays on some run fits early and let his energy and enthusiasm breathe, which is an important part of that position and how connected you are to pass rush and coverage. And he was able to take advantage of the opportunity. So I was happy for KJ, and I thought there's a lot of good things on tape that we need to build and accumulate so that we can play winning football and not losing football.
Like a question about Dante Schrader. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to him and I told him, I like the way you stick your head in there. And he goes, yeah, I ain't scared of nobody. Last night after the game, he spoke up and took responsibility for missing the tackle. What do you see in Dante along those lines? He seems very accountable, very mature for a rookie,
Yeah.
very aggressive. Tell me what you see
No,
about him.
I think he's a player that's capable of having high expectations for himself, and I think he's mentally strong enough to handle how bad he feels about that particular play that you're speaking of. I think it's important that players understand that you can't just file away your good plays as assumptions and fixate on your bad plays, or vice versa. There's a healthy balance. I think we're all confident in his fearlessness and how mature he is, and that plays that you're capable of making that you don't make are always difficult. It wasn't the reason why we won or lost, but he knows he's capable of contributing to wins with plays like that. And I think there's a big part of it, football, that I stress. Plays, I understand plays happen. I don't like when mistakes are made in vain. And with Trader, I have a high confidence that the next time he'll that he'll learn from that and be able to be a little more consistent with his sideline approach tackles, and in that particular case, making that a right shoulder tackle and utilizing the sidelines as the other compression defender. So when you're capable of it, it makes you sick for him. I know he's sick about it. I think the one thing that we're all confident in is that he will learn from that mistake and perform better because of it, which is why he's has those opportunities in the first place.
I'm going to take kind of a risk here and just ask you about film specifically. On that last play, it looked like Jalen and Chop were relatively in the same place. And I'm curious if that was by design, or was Jalen's pass rush lane supposed to be more inside?
So that it was a what you'd call a straight rush. So you'd go through the B and C gap, and it just so happened that their simultaneous get off kind of cut Chop off a little bit. That was not an usually you don't draw rush lanes where guys get free that quick, but they got a good jump and they edged their blockers, and then so much of this game is you're doing right longer, and you get a shot on the quarterback, and a playmaker that's as strong as him, you have to bring your feet when you wrap up, or he'll shed you. And we unfortunately he was able to make that play, and that combined with the sideline tackle, it ended up being a play that got them in position to score points. My challenge to the team was the guys on that play. Everybody wants to make a play, and players make plays, and sometimes they don't. But the reason we lost was an accumulation of things that each person, each player, and each coach, if they don't hard look at what they can do more, then they're going to be part of the problem. That's not our personality. That's not how we've done anything. So it's more important than ever that we constructively look at all the things that we can do. And if you have a unilateral approach that way, it gives you a chance to come out of something that is difficult for all, but well worth anything that we have to do to go ahead and have that winning feeling for the organization and the team.
Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.